Hey guys, how's it going? It is your boy, Big Blue June 97 here, coming at you with another Dr. Stone manga review. This time from manga chapter Z equals 165, titled Know the Rules, Make the Rules. And let me just say that when it comes to this chapter of Dr. Stone, we get a few shockers, a little stingers in this chapter, things that I didn't really see coming, but I'm glad occurred. We kind of get the reveal of what Dr. Xeno built. What could it possibly be? Well, you're going to have to wait until we get to that part in the chapter review to find out. And hopefully you've already read the chapter because, it's free on Shonen Jump. So, go do that. And before we get right into this review, I'd like to ask y'all once again to subscribe to my YouTube channel, Big Blue Drew 97, as well as leave a like down below if you like this manga review, as well as what did you think of this chapter, and how do you think that this review is, or what do you think is going to go on in this chapter. And now with that out the way, let's get started with this review. So we start off this chapter in the same vein as how we ended the last chapter, where we see Senku and Ryusui. Ryusui is about to fire off his gun in the direction of Stanley, and even Senku is like, yes, this is how the battle is going to end. Everything's going to go our way. We're going to bring him down. But suddenly, Stanley does something that is kind of shocking to Ryusui and Senku, where he begins to move sporadically. And this is something that shocks Senku and Ryusui. And then you have Magma's artist, which, we still don't know his name. He calls out what Stanley is doing, and he calls it jinking, which Yuzu says Gesundheit, which, let me just say this. This is the first time I've seen the word Gesundheit written out, and if you don't know, Gesundheit is just like when someone sneezes. So it's funny because she thinks that he's sneezing when Magma's artist is actually using like a actual term used in military aero-based combat. So that's a really funny moment. But what he is saying, and it's kind of it's explaining in this chapter what jinking is, but to be more specific, jinking is a type of gun defense where they basically move in a sporadic way to avoid gunfire. And this is something that is not necessarily noticed by the Kingdom of Science, because you have someone like Ginryu, he's like, oh yeah guys, you can do it, and Magma's like, yeah, take him down, kill him, and then we'll have advantage over the skies. And then you have Nikki, best girl, who's like, well, but if they lose, then they'll have advantage of the skies. So you just have this small little comedic moment where everyone's like, go Senku, go Ryusui, go, go, go. But then, while they're all cheering, you have Matsukaze, who is thinking about, oh, my comrades, specifically Genryu, are like, they're looking up at the sky, looking up at the battle, but I have a bad feeling when it comes to what lurks below us. And from here, we get an explanation for why he is feeling that way, because he has this feeling that something bad is going to happen, but because he comes from the stone world, he doesn't understand 21st century technology. And from here we cut over to underneath the Perseus, where we see this image coming closer to them underwater. And at this moment you may be thinking, wait one second, what the heck is it? Is it a boat? No, it can't be a boat because it's underwater. Oh. So we see Xeno and his crew with their machine guns as if they're ready for battle. And we get the full reveal of what they are in. They are in a black submarine as it is heading underneath the Perseus. And then we have Ginryu, who's also responding like, oh no, what is happening? What is going on? As this is all happening, part of the, I'm pretty sure it's called the Perseus. I may be wrong. I will correct myself later on. But we see that their ship explodes. And then we see people from the submarine using hook claws to get aboard the Perseus. I'm fairly certain that's what it's called. And they start destroying it. One man has this kind of like axe wielding like saw blade and like cuts through the ship. And then you have him basically declaring to everyone on the ship, it's like, yeah, we're taking over, kiddos. If you try to, fight back, we'll shoot you. As we also see the buff lady also jump in, preparing to attack. And we have some some of them fighting combatants. We have Magma, we have Nikki. They're gonna try to fight her off, and unfortunately, they are very unsuccessful. And this is seen by the fact that Magna gets captured, as well as Yo is also captured. Get all of Xeno's men, as it seems as if they've taken over the boat. Even one of them is saying, "Oh, hey, Luna," as we have the muscular woman on their side. It's like, "Oh, wow, we did so well. You know what? It's time to sing." And they seem to have taken over the ship and taken out some of the fighters on the Kingdom of Science. And I'm like, oh my gosh, there's no way that this is going to happen. But I'm like, but if this were to occur, this would mean that the Kingdom of America, the American colonies, have taken over the air, which would leave the sky and the ground to the Kingdom of Science. So when I first saw this and was reading this, I'm like, okay, so it's going to have to be a rescue mission where the only ones left are going to be like Senku and Risui in the air, and then you have Chrome and his group going underground. They'll rescue the people of Kingdom of Science, rescue their friends, and then that's how they're going to win the war. But in actuality, that's not what happens. And I'm not going to spoil what happens, but I will say that what happened took me off guard, but it makes sense for what was set up in this chapter. So, we have the Kingdom of Science being captured by Xeno's men and women, and then from there, we cut back over to the sky, where we see that Stanley is still jinking and doing his maneuvers. Also, something to clarify what the jinking is, it is gun maneuvers. And the reason why I bring this up is because Risui is like, oh man, his jinking maneuvers are great, but we have Senku is not fazed by it as well. In actuality, he predicted that he would do this, because what Senku is basically saying is that we forced him to do this because he still believes that we have machine guns, hence why jinking is a gun defense. And because Senku thought about that, because he pulled out the fake machine gun, forcing Stanley to do this, their real plan will be coming together, because the main goal of all of this was to make him slower. And from here, we have Ryusu, who was shocked by this, but immediately goes along with whatever Senku is thinking, because he begins to pull up into the sky, climbing higher and higher. Even though that he's losing speed by climbing up higher and higher, there's a reason for it. Even Stanley and Magma's artists are questioning, like, what are they doing? Like, they had me in their sights, but they let me get away. This makes no sense. Why are they doing this? And then we have more of the reveal from Risui, who comments about how, yes, you may be familiar with like the tactics of air maneuvering in the modern world, but however, this is a new world where the rules are made from scratch. In reference to the title of this chapter, Stanley knows the rules of air combat, but because they're in the new world, they can make new rules. And one of these new rules comes from Senku, because we see that he has a crate. And what is in these bottles? Well, apparently we get a slight flashback to what is in them, which is acetylene gas, which is the same type of gas / liquid that Kirasame threw at Stanley's first plane to bring it down to cause the aircraft to stall. And so we have this small panel of apparently these bottles being dropped from the air as we cut back over to the Perseus, and we see that one of Xeno's men is still on the boat, is still exploring it, and then he realizes, oh my gosh, there's still some people below deck, where we get to see Mozu looking like intimidating as he begins monologues like, oh, that must be those machine guns that we were told of that was good in close combat. We were told that the rule is to fear them when you point them at us, correct? And you could probably guess where Muzu is going with this, especially when we see these flashes of light in the darkness, where we get to see two things: a big double-page spread of Senku recreating carpet bombing with the DIY acetylene gas. Basically what he's doing is he's dropping these glass bottles to guarantee that Stanley's plane will stall. And then you have Ryusui commenting about how Stanley just knows the old rules too well. And then we also get the reveal of Masukaze and Ginryo, who apparently took out one of Xeno's adult men as the chapter ends. And I put quotations around Ginryu because, frankly, he didn't fight them off. He didn't take them down. He let his bodyguard, Kaze, actually take him out. So, once again, Ginryu is saved by pure and utter luck. But we also get the reveal that Senku is planning to carpet bomb Stanley to make sure that his engine stalls. So, that was also cool. So, I think this was a really good chapter. Once again, mainly due to the fact that the slight twist that was in this chapter, because we saw that the Kingdom of America, the American colonies, first of all, we get the reveal of what they were planning on building over the past 2 weeks, which is apparently a submarine, which they talk about something I really didn't talk about, but basically they say, oh yeah, really anyone can make a submarine. Like, as long as you make it, basically submarines are just boats with caps on them with a way to cover it up. And I'm like, okay, that's a weird way to put it, but yeah, I guess so. So he talks about how it's not hard to make this makeshift submarine. So implying that this is a type of submarine that cannot be used for extremely deep distances, but since they're in a river, that is probably the best way that they can use this submarine. So this ties into something that I said in the last chapter about how possibly the invention that they made could be a way for them to take over the sea while Senku and his crew take over the sky and the land, or technically underground. So it shows that it is a submarine and potentially that it has torpedoes because it did cause the boat to explode. So that was a cool reveal. And the twist of this is that it seems to imply that the American colonies were going to take the kids, kidnap them, which they do kidnap some of them, and take over the ship. And most likely it would lead to sort of a rescue mission of these captured people, which it still could possibly be. But I thought it was going to be everyone's going to be captured because they have machine guns. They can't really fight back. But at the end of the chapter, it shows that no, even with the machine guns, the warriors of the Kingdom of Science are just so skilled in hand-to-hand combat that they can basically take down someone who has a firepower. So this just shows that just because they have guns doesn't mean it's automatic win. That the strength, physical strength and the scientific might of the Kingdom of Science has the ability to take them down, not only on the land, but also in the sky with the carpet bombing. So that was something that I didn't really expect. As well as the fact that we're going to most likely get more, we'll be able to see characters that we rarely see begin to take center stage in this, at least at the beginning of this war, particularly when it comes to Mozu Matsukaze, which we haven't really seen a lot of from them, so it's good to see more of them. So that's probably the cool part about this chapter, as well as what is also cool about this chapter is how the main idea of this chapter ties into the title, which it normally does, about how Stanley is so rooted in the old ways of war when it comes to fighting in the air, that he never would expect for them to do something out of the way of that basics, out of the way of something that he knows. Basically, Stanley is rooted in the old ways of the old world and does not consider that this is a new way of doing things. In the same vein as how guerrilla warfare became more prevalent in comparison to the older way of two armies fighting each other. And that's kind of what Senku is doing. Stanley represents the old, traditional warfare, one army versus another army, while Senku and Risui are representation of the guerrilla warfare, and how the old ways will fail to the new ways if you're unable to adapt. And I think that's what this is leading to. Stanley is going to lose this fight because he was unable to adapt and get out of his old ways and realize new world, new rules, new way of fighting. So, overall, like I said, thought this was a really good chapter. The art was always on point. Unfortunately, it's sad to see the Perseus taking a little bit more damage, but I think that's going to be alright. And as well as just being able to see that Xeno and his crew have the capability of seeing a submarine, as well as we potentially seeing more characters getting more screen time and a little bit more development in this fight is always a plus for me. So hopefully you enjoyed this review. I enjoyed recording it. Leave a like on this video. Subscribe to my YouTube channel. What did you think of this chapter? Where do you think that they're going to go from here? I think we're going to continue with the fighting. We're going to see most likely Stanley's plane going down, showing that the Kingdom of Science takes a win in the sky. And I do think that there are going to be more fights on the Perseus and in the submarine. And I think this is where the full force of the American colony is eventually going to come in. They may kidnap more people and bring them back to their fortress, but by the time they get there, potentially Chrome and his crew would already take over, basically leaving the American colony like without a base and having to give up. So that's where I think it's going to go, not necessarily in the next chapter, but how the story is going to go from here. So what do you think? Hopefully you liked this video. Do all of that cool jazz. Like, comment, subscribe, and I will see you in the next video. Oh, wait. There we go. Hey, guys, how's it going? Bye, guys.